Hi guys, Ronnie here and welcome to the workshop. Today I have some new kind of time trial specific parts for you to show. So without any further ado, let's get into it. Many times when I'm building time trial bikes or just upgrading them for some clients, there's of course the dilemma of different chainring. Now of course normally we use the 1x setup for most of these builds because most time trials, at least here, are relatively flat, so you don't need the wide gear range. And here there are a few options that we have been using in the past. So unfortunately there isn't a huge amount of variance or options. When it comes to this, it's quite a specific product. So the ones we tend to use historically, probably the first ones that were kind of available were the Aero Coach Arc carbon chainrings. These weren't perfect. We had some durability issues like chipping teeth and things like that. And it's a relatively thin carbon plate, and there is a bit of flex involved as well. And these are no longer made either. The advantage there, of course, was that they could be made fully custom to your specifications. Nowadays, this or similar service is done by Digirit, but I haven't really explored those options too much yet. Then from other off-the-shelf options, we had great luck with Pyramid Cycle Designs. I've used this on my bikes for a few seasons and some others. Of course, it's a small British brand, so not you don't always have everything available that we would need, but they can also do some custom stuff if you wait long enough, and it's really high quality chainring. The downside there is they're relatively expensive and also pretty heavy because it's a full solid block of aluminum. Then from the new options, we've been using the Aero Coach Aten, which is admittedly great, works great, has a very clever construction with the Aero shaping around the tooth profiles and the kind of hollowed out aluminum shell that's backed by a carbon fiber stiffening plate. So that's a really great product. However, they use the signature gold color, and I had a few customers who just really didn't want that. And these tend to be quite expensive as well. And then we've also experimented with alligator chainrings on some builds, but this is kind of a budget level option, and the tooth profile is pretty loud, and the chainrings are quite flexy because they have a lot of material cut out, so there's nothing left to make it stiff enough, particularly in the larger sizes. So I would steer clear away from that if you have the means to go for something better. And for a few months I've been expecting this option as used by Team UAE Emirates. Now, I really like Carbon-Ti products because they make some really good stuff, particularly with brake rotors and hubs, which I've shown you before earlier, and now it's basically the first foray into aerodynamic chainrings. Now, this is their brand new 1x Aero chainring, and it's machined out of a single plate of carbon fiber. It's, I would say, half the weight of the aluminum options, or around that. It's the body, of course the teeth have a fixed width, but the body is also real thick, I would say around 5 millimeters. So the stiffness is definitely on there, you can feel it already. So I'm very excited to see how this performs in the real life. Of course, the manufacturing quality is up to the Carbon-Ti standard, so that's really nice. We also have these logos machined into it and some pocketing on the inside. So this might be not perfect for aerodynamics, but it definitely saves weight. It's made in sizes from 58 and 60 and 62. So basically all the popular chainring sizes for this application nowadays. We also have a power meter cutout for Shimano-based units, and of course this is a 4x110 BCD. I think it's only made in this this particular standard. So This is relatively common these days because there's just a huge amount of options, both in terms of cranks, power meters, and chain rings with this bolt circle diameter. So yeah, actually I think I'll be using this particular unit on my bike as well, because yeah, I'm just curious to see how it performs. But we do have a few units in stock if you want to try it out yourself. But yeah, definitely looks smart. Actually, it's in terms of looks and specs, it's quite similar to the Wattshop chainring that I have on my Kratos cranks. However, it's around 30–40% cheaper in EU pricing. So yeah, that definitely helps. And it's of course not specific to the crank. So that's the Carbon-Ti. Yeah, and another thing I forgot to mention is the shape. Now this is a regular round ring, which I tend to prefer. My slight niggle with the Aero coach one is that it uses this kind of non-round chainring shape. Yeah, I'm not really sure about the merits of that one. So whenever possible, I prefer to stick to a round classic chainring shape. Yeah, so that was the 1x chainring option. However, there's also the variant that's used for road bikes, or even a double version for time trial bikes, and that's this one, is the Evo X-Ring, as Carbon-Ti I call it. Now, I've been thinking about trying this for a while now because according to the reviews, this is the only real aftermarket option that matches the original Shimano rings in terms of shift performance. So I'd definitely be curious to explore that. Again, the construction is done to a really high standard, and actually this one is a rather unique hybrid chainring design because the body or the carrier part of the chainring is made of aluminum plate and machined out, or sorry, carbon fiber plate and machined out. Then the outer section is, the teeth section is an aluminum unit that's bonded into the carbon, and you got machined titanium upshifter ramps, which is really intricate solution and just a piece of art really if you look at it. Now this is a classic 5440 version, which is, well, basically what I use for my road bike. But the good thing is that if you're a time trialist who wants a double setup still, there's a, for example, 5844 version, which is also really neat. I think they go up to 60 tooth even with this variant. So yeah, rather nice. And unlike most chainrings, even the inner one in this case is made in the same fashion. So yeah, also pretty neat. But those are the chainrings themselves. A lot of time also there's the issue of having a proper fitment to your crankset, and luckily Carbon-Ti also offer a neat set of bolts. So we have these little transitions that make it essentially blend in with the 9200 series cranks, or the Quark D4 for that matter. And yeah, these are also machined really nicely from aluminum. And unlike competitors, it's a big plus also that they're also available in 1x and 2x formats. And if you just use a regular kind of power meter spider with no shaping on there, then you can just use the Cybray bolts that I've shown earlier, for example, in my Cybray crank demonstration video. So yeah, this is what we have new from Carbon-Ti on the chainring front. But my absolute favorite Carbon-Ti product and braking related product is the Carbon-Ti X-Carbon rotor. This is a third generation. I've already shown you this on my earlier builds, and now there's a new version also that's specifically tailored for time trialists, and it's this one. I've been waiting for this anxiously for a few months now to show up, and here it is. So this is the Aero version of the rotor, that my favorite brake rotor basically. And of course it's no rocket science. The main difference here is that the carbon carrier is now no longer machined out, but it's done in a way that extends all the way to the brake surface. This creates basically kind of an aerofoil shape instead of the hollowed out one that we normally see with brake rotors. And obviously this is a very marginal gain in terms of aerodynamics, but every little bit helps, and it adds up. And of course Team UAE also use it. It was developed for them. So that's what I'm going to use on my time trial wheels and also road front wheels. Also there it's a marginal gain. So obviously these come now in the center lock variant, and there's a 140 and 160 mil version. We have a few of these still in stock. A lot of them sold out very quickly when we restocked them. So maybe if you're watching this video, you will still have a chance to get yours. And yeah, just to give you a quick recap of the brake rotor, again, very intricate construction. So we have a full steel brake surface, which you need for proper braking. Then we have titanium float hardware, which enables the heat expansion of the braking surface of the rotor without distorting the shape. So it doesn't get warped and you get no clicks or things on it. And then there's of course the now not so much machined carbon fiber carrying section, which is then attached to the, again, very intricately machined center lock adapter, center lock lock ring, and the titanium securing plate, which prevents the lock ring from loosening. However, I still use a tiny bit of Loctite on there just to be sure, because it can get loose due to vibrations that occur when braking. So yeah, those are the brake rotors. These will go on my race wheels, obviously. For my training wheels, we stick to the Hope rotors that I've shown you earlier. And to complement the chainring, we also have a new option that I want to try myself on my own Colnago time trial bike, and that's the new crank option from Wattshop. Now, I've shown you the Kratos crankset earlier, which I still have and really like. However, the downside of that is I have to use power meter pedals, and particularly in the case of Wahoo and speed plate pedals, that's a bit of a penalty, because normally I would use a speed plate Aero pedal, which I can upgrade the titanium spindle, titanium base plate and bolts. So it's really light. Of course, one-sided Aero. I also have the shoes that are made with the low stack adapter, so that's 3mm less stack than otherwise. And I can use a shorter version of the aluminum spindle, which reduces the Q factor by another 5mm. So going from this to the power link pedal, which is of course not bad, it works exactly fine as you would expect from a speed plate pedal, but that one has a wider Q factor by a total of effectively 7mm compared to my short spindle Aero pedal, and it also has a taller stack height. So this removes quite a bit of the advantages of the Kratos crankset that I would have with my non-power pedals. But Wattshop has now released a new version of this crankset that is basically just a pair of crank arms, and yeah, they have exactly the same design as the full-on crankset. However, now the drive side is equipped with a spider interface that fits a Quark 8-bolt power meter. And if you combine that with the new Pro versions of the Quark 1x chainring power meters, those go up to 60 teeth, then it basically gets into kind of an Aero shape with the power meter inside that's very similar to the Kratos crankset. However, according to my calculations, we'll see how it will actually end up with spacing. I can of course go back to the Aero pedal, so I get the low stack. Another thing I forgot to mention is well, the shoes that I have the low stack adapter, those don't really work with the power meter pods, so I lose that advantage as well. Now, if I add those back in and go for the SRAM power meter, then theoretically I should be able to reduce my Q factor even further and reduce my stack height even further. And another thing that I want to try is that, of course, the pedal inserts are interchangeable between this set and the Kratos set that I have. So I've ordered these in a length that I don't have yet. So now I can basically do every length from 160 to 175. I'm going to use this in my testing because I get a lot of conflicting views regarding this, whether actually shorter cranks do make you more aero. So this set will enable me to test out just that. So yeah, I'm quite interested to see this on. This particular version is the 1625 and 1725 version, depending on the orientation, which admittedly is, I mean, 1625 is a crank length that is not really available separately. So yeah, it will be definitely an interesting option, particularly in these shorter crank length ranges. So yeah, that's another upgrade. If you talk about the finish of the cranks, really beautifully machined. So hopefully all the tolerances will be just right. You get two options for spindle length, the standard one and the narrow one. Now, even the narrow one has a more engagement in terms of width than the full-on Kratos. So I should be able to set this up properly in my bike to have it centered. We'll see about that. If not, I may have to go with the standard one, which makes then the Q factor gains basically a wash. So I really need to test it out. So I'm definitely not discarding the Kratos crankset just yet. Or maybe I'll just keep it in case I once decide to go for a track bike, because for that it's the ultimate thing, admittedly. And here I have the two little self-extracting nuts and bolts that go into the crank arms. And yeah, this makes the removal installation process of them pretty straightforward. So it's, as you can see, it's a fully modular system. Nothing really is fixed in there. And of course, here goes either the separate power meter, which I could use with the Carbon-Ti chainring, or the SRAM Aero chainring, as I said earlier. So really, these are the upgrades that I'm going to do to my time trial bike, or the experimenting that I'm going to do. Of course, we have the head V84 front wheel that these will go to. We also have the tri-spoke from Evolve that we use for testing. So if you come out to us for air testing, you can use for now one of these, but I'm planning to add more options. And yeah, then we can really dial in those details in terms of the CDA, and hopefully this year I'll be able to do the same to my setup. So yeah, that's pretty much all the new parts that I have to show you for today. If you're interested in some of these, we have, or we might have, a few items still in stock. If you check in the web shop, of course, you can back order if you're so inclined. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.